Good afternoon, bookworms and flyleafs. Welcome to this Friday's episode of Author Reads here on Fae Productions. I am your host, Fairy Princess Lolly, and we are here today with author Katherine D. Graham. But before we jump into the things, as you guys all know, first things first, please like, subscribe, and twist the bell. You will understand why in just a second, because as you know, we always do something new to our bell. So it's a fun little thing to keep it changed up, right? And also a shout out to today's sponsor, which is Foxes and Ravens. And Foxes and Ravens is an enchanting female-owned business for fantasy and fairy tale leather creations. They specialize in custom tooling and offer a variety of leather accessories for the fair and everyday life in a variety of different themes. And it's kind of cool the way that they've got a shopping universe to help you navigate their online store. And it's called the Land of Guarded Realms. And it's so called because it is guarded by the great fox and raven spirits. Within these realms that make up their store, there is the Elder Grove, which is the home of the elves, so elfy-like things. The Witch's Cottage, which is the home of magic. Fairy Hollow, the Shiredom, the Halls of Drakkar, and that's the Vikings. Even though I always think dragons, but that's the Vikings. And the great twin cities of Foxford and Corvix, known for their taverns and libraries. So they also offer a gear for wanderers and adventurers, a range of items fit for any fantasy character, with several options for customization. So don't feel free to reach out to them if you are interested in having something custom made. Every piece is lovingly crafted by hand at Nora's workshop in Canada. I'm so sorry, my nose is giving me a thing with the change of seasons here. They do ship all over the world, though, and you can find their information in the low bar, as well as the ticker from wherever you guys are watching. So please check them out, Foxes and Ravens. And with that said, then, that brings us proper into our show. Welcome to the show, Katherine.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
You are most welcome. And I see, yes, there's so many of you guys out there in the audience this afternoon. Hello, everybody. So please, if you will, let's start by hearing a little bit about you and who you are and where you're from and any shout outs that you might like to give.
Sure. So my name is Katherine D. Graham. I'm a fantasy author from Tennessee in the U.S. I'm also a developmental editor.
What is that? A developmental editor?
So a developmental editor takes a author's books and looks for plot holes, character flaws, world building issues. So the book that the readers get has it all streamlined and just immersive into the world that they're reading about.
So you're kind of like the literary version of the people that go through movies and make sure that like that one statue that got knocked over is still knocked over in the next scene.
Yes, exactly.
Continuity.
Right. So yeah, I do that for AutoCrit during the day, and then I want to work as a writer. I write mostly during National Novel Writing Month or NaNoWriMo.
Hey, whatever makes it happen.
That's right.
And that's coming up here too, here in a month and a half.
Yes, so excited. So excited.
So is NaNoWriMo what, because you have this book and then you have a bunch of different novellas, and this book is also part of a series. Is that correct? The one that you're going to be reading from today, is that correct?
The one today is a standalone, but I do have a series launching next year. So this is my debut novel, and I was really surprised that it took off the way it did, and very honored when I got the Next Generation Indie Book Award Finalist award for this book. I was just shocked.
A bolstering start.
I know. So yeah, next year I'm in a box set with a bunch of people called the Realm of Darkness box set. There's 40 of us award-winning and best-selling authors in it, and that will be the first volume. It's all full-length volume fantasy, romance, and paranormal romance in that.
Plain box set with 40 books. I mean, that sounds like buying like the Encyclopedia Britannica, right?
I'm so
Times two.
excited and honored. Yeah, it's on pre-order now, but it's going to be wider. So it's 99 cents right now on pre-order on Kobo and Google Play, but that one is going to be the first in a actual series called the Splitting World series. And right now there's just novellas for that up on Amazon. So that's probably what you're seeing when you look at the other books I have. Yeah.
Nice. Well, yeah, I definitely did see a bunch of novellas that you had. And so obviously this isn't the very first thing you've ever written. Is NaNoWriMo what got you in like your first production out there?
Yes, definitely. I've been writing since I was a child, but never really considered publishing until college. And I published 2 books and they just sort of flopped because I didn't get them edited. And so there were bunches of issues with them. But I was like, oh, I'm learning to edit. I don't need other people to edit. Spoilers, you need other people to edit, even if you're an editor. So they're actually unpublished now. You can't find them anywhere. I wrote during NaNoWriMo from 2011 up every year since. And this book, Val, I wrote in 2016. And there was just something special about it. And I was like, I'm going to go all the way with this one. So I had it edited. And when I got the edits back, I was like, oh, my writing sucks. This is awful. I'm not going to do anything with this book. And I didn't write for a year. And my husband found the book and read it. And he was so skeptical. He doesn't even read, not like fiction.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, you need to publish this book. It's great. And so over the last year, it's just been a whirlwind of pick the book up, finish editing, finish revising, putting it out there. And it's just been so humbling to see people say, you know, we love your book and all the reviews. I'm just very overwhelmed and excited at the same time.
That is, I think that's very true, though, what you say about the editing, you know, when it comes to, like, you edited it, you got to edit it, and then you're like, oh, my writing is terrible. And then you don't look at it for a minute, you know, because it kind of hits you in the gut. I think it's kind of like a gut punch at first.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we're all very attached to anything that we write. And not to mention editing can be an expensive process as well. What do you have to say to anybody who may be, you know, trepidatious about getting their book edited for the first time? Or let's say they have done that and they too had a similar response as you, right?
Mm-hmm.
When you first got your feedback and whatnot. And how did you get over that? And what would you maybe suggest to anybody else who's currently feeling that way if they've had something looked at and now they're like, oh.
Yeah, I think really the first thing is be kind to yourself the way you would be to another author. A lot of us read each other's works and we compare our works to each other. But writing's an art, it's not a science.
Yeah.
So the more you write, the better you're going to get. The books you wrote 5 years ago aren't going to be as good as your books today. So you have to learn to detach enough to say, I'm using this as a growth opportunity.
Right.
And as far as the editing costs, I was working 2 jobs. I didn't have, you know, the money to really be wasting on editing. So I have a family member who is an editor, and I tried to rush her through my editing, and it didn't work out so well because I only gave her 2 days, and I was like, no, you can't do a proper edit in 2 days, guys. So AutoCrit free membership. And before I ever went to work for AutoCrit this year, I picked them up. I found them on NaNoWriMo, National Novel Writing Month, and just started using their free, because they have a free forever membership for a lot of the main issues, and it's genre specific. So I was able to go in and pick an author similar to my book and compare errors.
And this was on AutoCrit?
Yeah, autocrit.com. So I just signed up for a free membership, and it saved me $1,600 because I get my line edit, and I got to go straight to my main copy edit with my editor, Terry, who's amazing and worth every penny of what I paid her. But AutoCrit found over 3,000 errors in Val when I first sent it. And so I got to fix all those. So yeah, take advantage of the self-editing tools you've got if you're trying to edit and you get that first developmental feedback and it's crushing. Just take it one chapter at a time and be like, I'm going to self-edit my way through this, and then turn around and, you know, try it again, get back up and dust off and keep going.
Why do we fall down, Bruce? Right? Like,
Back up. Yep.
that's right. Fall down 7 times, get up 8. I think everything you said, though, is super true. My weird thing when I write, and then, because I completely agree, you absolutely have to have, unless you're not doing something serious, you absolutely have to have another person be editing your stuff and reading over it. My weird thing is that I don't like to be in the same space as somebody who is reading what I have written, right? Like, I will give it to them to read, but then either they have to leave the room or I have to leave the room, or just like give it to them. Otherwise, I'm like, just waiting and waiting and waiting, like
holding your breath, like,
right. And I feel so embarrassed if I'm right there, right? That's so strange. Okay, so let's hear a little bit about today's book. Tell us some about this world that you are about to plunge us into, and give us some context for what we're getting here today.
Sure. So, The Vow That Twisted Fate, which is this book here.
I love your cover, by the way. It's so beautiful. I'm like, ooh, it's got like all the colors.
I know, Jesh Art Studio did such a good job on it. I'm just so excited to show it off. But it's an epic fantasy. It's aimed for new adults. So new adult being a newer category, that's ages 18 to 23.
Okay.
And it follows a young queen of a world where evil has been banished for over 500 years to a different dimension. So she has been raised her whole life in a world without evil, and the worst of her problems is like playing court with other races. She's got a crush on her best friend who's the Elven Prince, and she's got her happy life starting to unwind for her, and then of course something has to happen. So the evil sorceress that was banished 500 years prior by her ancestor, that finds a way to open a portal back into their world, and has decided she's going to come back, and this time she's going to take over the entire world from the evil dimension. So then we have Arlena, the queen, who is in the situation of, how do I defeat evil when she's never even seen evil without becoming evil herself, and close that gate. And she has to do so by calling forward in time a legendary band of dwarven warriors who had a vow with her ancestor. So it's her and the elves and the dwarves and the other races basically trying to save their world.
I like it. Now, is this world, is it based here, like Earth based, or is it just like its own little worldly pocket?
Yeah, it's its own little worldly pocket. I've gotten a lot of requests for extra writing from it, but I was inspired to write this book from a dream that I had about one of the scenes that I'm going to read today. And so far, I haven't had inspiration to write much more than that, but a prequel might be in the works.
I love it. Your method of coming up with the book is basically Lovecraftian, right? Like it's a beautiful, happy, good world that was, inspired by my dreams, kind of like Lovecraft. So that's awesome. So before we jump into the reading, I just want to say, because I'm super excited about today's Patreon bonus, and I'm wondering if you can just give a quick blurb to our folks watching at home. You guys, if you're on our Patreon, you will have access to this after the show. And Katherine, can you just tell us a little bit about what you have in store for the Patreon-only bonus?
Yes, if you're not following on Patreon, you guys, you'll want to follow. If any of my readers are on here, I wrote this book from Arlena's point of view. And she has a little sister named Elsie, who in the course of the book grows from being a pigtailed, innocent young girl into a very brave, bold warrior queen by the end. And most of that transition happens during a year period where Arla is in the evil dimension trying to stop the sorceress. And I've had a lot of people ask, what happens with Elsie during that year?
It goes from Anna to Boudica? Like,
yeah. So they're like, what happens to Elsie? Because obviously the scene just follows Arla. We only see her, in the dark dimension. So this deleted scene is a summary of when that change happens for Elsie. And she grows up from the little pigtail girl into the warrior we see when Arla comes back. So her time during Arla's absence.
Awesome. I'm excited for this. So with that said, you guys, I'm about to turn the whole screen over here to Katherine, and I will be in the comments section with you all ready to take your questions that we will ask to her when she is done reading. And then after that, we will do our drawing for the copy. It is the copy of this book, right?
Yes. I'm going to do a signed copy of this book.
Signed copy. Yes.
I
Yeah, so that's cool. And we'll, after that, then we will do the drawing, we'll do the drawing. And then after that, that will be like the end. So with that said, are you ready, my lady?
I am ready. Very excited. Okay. So if you have been following me a little while, thank you for joining. And if you're not, you can find some of my live readings on my YouTube as well. But today I wanted to read one of my favorite chapters from the book, which is chapter 9. And in chapter 9, Queen Arlena, the protagonist, is forced out of her world and into the evil dark dimension. So here we go. 3 days of circle meetings fly by. Every day, a malignant, dark aura grows thicker in the woods beyond our walls. While we've learned a lot of history about the Two Queens' War, the pentagram remains a mystery. No one knows how to keep her out of our world, I realize, listening to Thalen discuss strategies in a session. Looking over to Maverick, who is arguing some defense strategies with Thalen, my heart sinks. I guess Valera was wrong when she said Maverick knows what to do. How could he? He's never faced this before either. The dark aura seeps inside the hall today through the windows and doors. An ominous malcontent lingers in the air so thickly I can almost sense the Dark Queen's presence lingering near me. My stomach churns at the thought of her standing within our walls without us knowing. No one else acts uncomfortable, though. Talon can sense auras, I remember. He sensed the evil around the imp and the centaur princess. If he can't act differently, I guess it's all in my head. I skim the soldiers standing by, looking for Talon. He is nowhere to be seen. Maverick catches my eye and raises his chin in the slightest of nods before looking away. We haven't spoken more than formalities to each other since the night I met Jor, Trawl, and Ilgar. My offer of friendship was either ignored or rejected, I think bitterly. But at least he was respectful toward me now. The tension between him and Thalen is an invisible wall preventing true progress on any strategy either one proposes in the circle meetings. Either Maverick or Talon always has weapons at the ready in each other's presence. The lunch kettle strikes, announcing our midday break. Murmuring and chatting among the visiting royals picks up, and I excuse myself. I head for the door, desperate to escape the heavy aura and get some fresh air. A life-sized, formless shadow detaches itself from the wall just outside the door. I scream, tripping backwards, as it rushes towards me. The thin, wispy shadow creature seizes my wrist before I can even blink. Guards of all races dash my way, both from inside and outside the hall. I jerk back, ripping my wrist from its grasp. Staggering to my feet, I make a run for the stairs. The creature shifts, revealing piercing red stars glowing where its eyes should be. A gaping mouth of jagged red strands, rooted in place, gnashes at me from an otherwise faceless void. Elsie stands, screaming at the top of the stairs. I stumble up the stairs and snatch her hand, yanking her back toward our rooms. The creature trails us up the stairs. "Stop the creature!" Talon shouts from downstairs. "To the Queen!" Maverick orders. A few of the Keep's select company run out into the hall from the study. Glancing back over my shoulder, I see the creature knock 2 elven warriors to their backs. Talon and Maverick break away from the crowd to stand before us in the stairs. The creature breaks through the group and heads for me. "Protect the royals!" Talon yells, grabbing Elsie and me and pushing us into my room. Maverick and his company plant themselves, arms ready at the door. "It's me," I gasp. "That thing is coming for me." My eyes dart to Elsie. Jumping back, I shove her away. "Talon, keep Elsie away from me," I order, panic filling me at the creature's fast approach. Without wasting a moment, Talon drags Elsie, still screaming, away from me. He pulls her to the other side of the room. The Keep Select company back into the room, surrounding me. All 7 are here now. Maverick slams the door shut, and 2 of the dwarves shove the vanity in front of the door. The door shakes on its hinges. A shrill screeching on the other side makes me cover my ears. "It's tainted!" someone in the hallway cries out. "Don't touch it! The ones who touched it are already dead!" "Keep your distance," Talon commands, and the soldiers through the door say, "Archers to the ready!" Dead. I fall to my knees, shivering, my eyes trailing to where it grabbed me. Why aren't I dead, then? The wrist it grabbed is throbbing with a dull pain. My breath slows, my heart pounding in my ears. A black blotch is spreading up my arm and down onto my hand. "What is it?" Maverick demands, grabbing my wrist. His face goes very pale when he sees the blotch. The door cracks, splitting down the middle. "To the balcony!" Maverick orders the others. "Elsie!" I shout, but Talon shoves her under the bed. "It only wants you, lass," Maverick reminds me. A storm brews outside. The midday sky is dark as night. Chilling wind whips around us, biting into me. Trees moan in the forest, tops bent almost to the ground, but somehow not breaking. Fires burn bright in the distance. My city is laid low around me, shadow creatures swarming the streets on their way back to the castle. My people cower close to the walls, watching as their homes burn. Soldiers stand between them and the creatures, but the creatures do not engage the troops. The creatures' sole focus is the castle. Beyond the wall, the moat is filled with red and green mist. "Hold her down," Maverick orders. I'm pushed down onto my back. The sky flickers between sunny and light, and stormy and dark above me. Trawl and another middle-aged dwarf named Loth hold my shoulders down. Jor holds my aching arm, the one with spreading blackness, out to one side. I blink for a moment. An arrow protrudes from my shoulder, just below Loth's hand. The blackness around my wrist is gone, replaced with multiple black runes. Screaming, I try to pull away from them, the pain almost unbearable. "The arrow!" I cried, jerking as hard as I can, but unable to get away. "Take it out!" "She's delusional," Maverick dismisses me, holding my hands above my ruined wrist. I blink again. The arrow is gone, as are the runes. The black blotches in the rune's place. Maverick whispers something in the ancient fairy tongue. Light hovers between his hands and my arm. When I blink, the arrow is back. Maverick snaps it in half, reaching a hand under my shoulder. "Wait," I whisper, but he jerks the rod through my shoulder and I scream. Trawl presses a cloth hard against the wound. My head spins. I blink again, slowly, and the arrow's wound is gone again. Trawl isn't even on that side of me. Sweat trickles down my face. The dark blotch slithers beneath the skin on my arm like a snake. My head pounds. The black blotch transforms into runes, but I'm not sure if it's real or just my mind playing tricks on me. Maverick moans, swaying, and Jor grabs him to keep him upright. Maverick sits back, his head in his hands. My vision splits. The darkness of a world at war stretches out to one side, over the balcony and down below, a timeline or dimension I realize is not my own. On my other side, in clear sunlight, the incoming attacker tears chunks out of the door. Something clicks within me, a familiarity, more than a memory, about the battle that I'm watching. The arrow and Maverick removing it, it all happened to Valera right here. It's the final battle raging down in the market, the battle where Valera doesn't return. Looking up, I see Madra's floating fortress waiting above me. The Keep Select is on both sides of me, present in each world. "A single wish will take us all there," Valera's voice whispers. I feel her feelings. Looking up at Maverick, my heart breaks. My sorrow too deep to go through with the plan even after so much death. "I'm feeling her feelings," I gasp. "Am I in her body?" "It's time," Valera whispers to me, appearing above me. "You must be brave. Come back alive." To my surprise, the Dwarvenkin don't see her, neither the ones in my world nor the ones I realized must be in hers. Why am I reliving her memories, feeling her pain? Her hand grasps mine. One by one, the runes from her body transfer to my own. Those runes burn holes in my dress, one row going up each arm, each leg, and then, from the burning sensation down my spine, I'd say my back as well. She slowly fades away into nothing beside me, a strange feeling of completion resting within my chest. The dwarves in my world jump away from me. My body raises itself up in both worlds, the dark and the light. I have no control over myself anymore. I can only watch while someone else controls me. Looking up at the pentagram, I see the eyes burning solid red. They glare down at me in a challenge. I turn to the dwarven company in my own world, my shoulders held high, my jaw set tight, and my hands balled into fists at my side. We have to go now, I tell the dwarves, all of whom are surprised by my tone. Arlena? Maverick says, taking one halting step toward me. Maverick. His name escapes my lips with much more meaning than it would have coming solely from me. I don't have much time. We have unfinished business to attend to. Valera, he whispers. The door won't hold for more than a couple minutes at best. The volleys of arrows the troops are unleashing in the hallway are obviously only vain attempts at stopping the creature at this point. Maverick steps toward me, and I wonder for a minute if he's going to kiss me again while I'm not really myself. I raise a hand to stop him. Turning to the door, I hold both hands out before me, my fingers making the shape of a triangle. Doorway of darkness, I close thee. A chant unknown to me escapes my lips. Shadows and death, I bind thee to the other side. Accept my sacrifice and be sealed. The creature beyond the door shrieks an inhumane cry. Electricity shoots down every nerve in my body. I don't know how I remain standing. Even the dwarves hobble to their knees. Turning to Maverick, I wrap my arms around his neck, pulling his head down to rest on my shoulder in a tight hug. You know me better than anyone, Maverick, my voice whispers. That's why I chose to send you here. What can I do? He whispers, heartbreak in his voice. Another wears your face, but she isn't you. I can't bear it. There's more to Arlena than you or I realized, Valera says through me. Watch her, study her. You'll see what I mean in time. What now? He asks, standing back and looking up at the sky. What happens next? I've merged our two worlds through her body, Valera says. What's left of my soul will vanish when the gateway closes. It's my sacrifice to close off the worlds. We'll go with her, he asks, to kill Maedra. Fulfill your vow, Valera says, a smile crossing over my face. Finally be at peace. Valera, he whispers, grabbing my hand. I've always loved you. I wish I could disappear and let them have their time. I wish I wasn't overhearing their final conversation. You're not losing me, she says. You're only losing this side of me. Taking a step back, I hold my hands above my head. I clap once, and the world around us spins. Goodbye, Maverick. I clap again and fall into darkness. So that is where she leaves her world. See how we're doing on our time.
It is 2:36. We are doing very well. Do you want to read a little bit more?
I can. If we've got time, I can read a little bit into the next scene and show when she wakes up in the evil dimension.
Okay, yeah, that sounds great.
Okay. All right, I have to blink a few times before my eyes adjust to the darkness surrounding me. I'm lying on the ground, frigidly cold. Piles of debris and smoking, burning bodies lay as far as my eyes can see in all directions. The stench is overwhelming. I raise a hand to cover my face with my sleeve, but find myself dressed in only a rough-spun tunic with no sleeves at all. A matching pair of pants is the only other clothing shielding me from the icy wind. Even my feet are bare. Everything in my body aches. Runes are burned into my skin. I stand carefully while my gaze darts between piles of rubble for any sign of anyone or anything familiar. I must be outdoors, I realize, but the sky is impossible to see past the smog. Haltingly, unsteadily, I make my way down into a wide clearing, hunched over and shuddering. My bare feet slosh along the cold, damp ground, almost sinking into something squishy. Not even a single blade of grass stands on the barren ground. Darkness hangs over everything. Not even stars break through the smog. Only fires smoldering among the dead in the distance give the faintest hint of light. Maverick and his company are gone, as is Talon. No other living thing moves anywhere that I can see. I stumble over something cold and hard, something metallic. Moving back, I find an empty suit of armor similar to Valera's at my feet. The crest on the chest plate is the human sun symbol from the war. Forcing myself not to think about why an empty suit of armor would be here, I scramble to lay the pieces out. A sigh escapes me. It's not a complete set. I slide on one boot that is much too large for me. Ignoring the cuirass that would hang down past my knees, I find some sticky black chainmail with a strange red circle on the right shoulder to wear instead. Scouring around, I find a random boot for my other foot. A little more searching turns up nothing more to keep me warm, though, and my teeth are chattering. Find something to defend yourself with, I tell myself. I search a while and finally find a pile of weapons. Something glows on the very top of the pile. Something small. Relief washes over me. My dagger, sheath, and all is glowing for me. Whispering a thanks to no one in particular, I hastily clutch it to my chest. Now somewhat armored and armed, I finally try to get my bearings. Do I shout for help? Are the others even here somewhere looking for me? Talon. Goosebumps rise on my arms at the thought of him. He'd been defending Elsie, I remember. Elsie. Swallowing hard, I force the thoughts away. I can't find out what happened to them till I get home. My stomach sinks. I don't even know if there is a way to get home. I remember Valera saying sealing the door was her final sacrifice. A hissing, whistling, crackling sound not far behind me catches my attention. I instinctively duck behind a stack of rubble, narrowly avoiding being seen by the two same imp creatures who killed the centaur princess. Trailing behind them in shackles is a towering creature of smoke with bulbous yellow eyes. One of the imps stops dead in its tracks. It screeches something to the other. They both poke around in the weapons stash. A chiming sound in the sky draws the imp's attention upward. A purple light flashes down from above, projecting Maedra's life-size image to stand before them. What's keeping you? She demands. The imps point at the weapons pile, screeching and clicking in a language I don't understand. Maedra looks around. I jump back behind the pile when she turns my way, my heart pounding in my chest. So, the little queen is playing in the trash heap, Maedra mocks. You, slave! Peeking around the rubble again, I see her looking at the chained smoke creature. Find me the human girl and your sin will be forgiven. You may live another day, she orders. Bring her to me before the imps, and you may have your old position back. Do you understand? The creature wheezes and crackles, shifting its weight. Release it, Maedra commands. The ground beneath me shakes when the shackles fall from the creature's wrists. Her dwarves won't be far from her, Maedra cautions her minions. Don't let your guard down. The light vanishes, and the imps start searching. The smoke creature moves sluggishly, shaking the earth with each step to peer over different piles. Crawling on hands and knees, I try to get away from them as fast as I can. The bulky armor and oversized boot hold me back. A hair-raising roar and gust of putrid smoke from behind me ruffles my clothes. I look up at the towering smoke creature standing over me with clenched fists. I gape up at it, frozen in place. Mine! It roars, reaching down for me. I don't have time to scream or move. A battle axe with a head on each end whirls through the air, inches from my face. It slices cleanly through the smoke creature's torso, scattering the smoke into nothing. The dwarves cry out in unison, jumping out from piles all around me. Jor helps me to my feet while the others run toward the imps. Jor stays by me, two short swords at the ready. Both imps are dead in seconds. The dwarves are laughing, smiling, and clapping each other on the back. Loth passes Maverick the two-headed battle axe from the ground. Thank you, Loth, Maverick says. Coming to stand in front of me, Maverick takes one look at my mismatched outfit and asks, and what's this getup? I can't keep from blushing at standing before them in such a fashion, especially since they're all wearing perfectly fitted dwarven armor. It's all I could find, I muttered. We're all wearing the armor we wore the last time we were in this realm, Troll points out. Did ye have none, Highness? His question strikes me as odd, but I can only shake my head in response. She's wearing what Valera last wore, Maverick says, lifting my chainmail to show the tunic beneath. Snatching my armor from him, I lower it hastily. Never have I been seen in such skimpy clothing by anyone other than my mother and Elsie. I'd appreciate it if you keep your hands to yourself, I seethe at him, eyes on fire. Crossing his arms, he says, I see you're yourself again. We should find a shelter, my lord, Loft suggests, looking round uncomfortably. His words draw attention to a whirring sound in the sky above us. Motioning for me to follow him, Maverick leads the way through the rubble. The piles give way to flat, black stone roads, pocketed with craters. The ground rises up jaggedly in places. Large, dark, broken machines on wheels and scattered around us as though tossed by children's toys litter the road. Buildings have caved in on themselves. Stone and metal protrude from the remnants of them. A growing urgency to hide presses in on me as the whirring sound gets closer, but none of the structures is complete enough to hide in. Hurry, I plead, grabbing Maverick's arm. Something's coming. Throwing his arm around my shoulder, he pushes me down on my hands and knees. Motioning for me to follow him, he crawls behind a lone standing brick wall. Following him, I find myself inside a fort-like space covered by thick, rough cloth. One by one, the rest of the dwarves enter as well. A fire circle of stone sits in the middle of the fort, already crackling with the smallest of flames, barely more than a candle. One of the dwarves smothers it with dirt, a brief poof of smoke escaping and then vanishing. Once everyone is inside, Maverick pulls a flat sheet of metal over. The stones rattle on the ground around us. The whirring grows to a roar just above us. Maverick raises a hand, placing a finger to his lips. I hold my breath, but my heart is pounding so loudly in my ears that I can't help but wonder if they can hear it too. So, yay! That is where I'm going to leave off, I think, before getting into too many spoilers.
That is perfectly fine. Yes, and good timing too. It's 2:45. So we do have a couple of questions here from the audience, and you guys, you can still continue to ask questions as we're answering these. So hey, thanks Jessica. She says that was great. So yes, she was a previous author who has been here on our show and a fabulous supporter. So thanks for tuning in this afternoon. Hi Jessica. So let me scroll back here just a second and find where our questions began. Here we go. Okay. Is the whole story told in first person? And if so, it's a two-parter. If so, do you find yourself drafting the things that happen and the thoughts of other characters to help realize the characters in the scene? So I guess
this is a great question.
Yeah.
So the whole book is in first person. There's an opening that's actually from the villain's POV at the very beginning, and then the entire rest of the story is from Arlena's, with a twist that's plot related. But it's always going to be from her POV. Now, the bonus scene that's available on Patreon, that's from Elsie's POV because Arla's not there. But that's the only one that isn't. So,
do you find it hard to write in the first person? I don't hear very many books that are written that way. So I wonder if you find it challenging at all to, I don't know, I guess like to maybe, I'm trying to figure out how to describe what I'm trying to ask, but when it's in the first person, everything is like, I observed this, right? Mm-hmm. And so how do you keep that from becoming repetitive?
I think the benefit to first person, because there's benefits to first person and then there's benefits to third person. The benefit to first person as opposed to third person where the narrator is restricted to one character is that you get a very limited but rich scope of emotion and feeling from a character. Now, it means that your developmental editor might hack your book to more pieces than the third person because you have to convey, without just being, like you said, repetitious, you have to convey the real-time feelings, real-time thoughts of the character as if you were the one reading or going through the story. So in that regard, I find it easier. I do have a couple books I've written in third person, but every book I think has a different purpose. And so for Val, I didn't actually draft the other characters. It was a dream I had, which made it, I think, easier to write in first person because in the dream I was like living through Arla's eyes. And so I was able to turn around and actually write, starting with the scene I just read, and write a good portion in the evil dimension, and felt what it was like being there in the dream. And being a pantser, I really don't draft anything.
Ah, a pantser.
I am a pantser through and through. So I sat down, I got as much out as I could during NaNoWriMo, and then turn around and after it was written, plotted it to the hero's journey and filled in gaps that were missing in the plot.
So that's an interesting reference, plotting it to the hero's journey. Can you elaborate on that a little bit? I know what you're talking about, but not everybody watching may. And so will you elaborate a little bit on what that means exactly?
Yes, there's different structures when you write a book that tells when different plot points should happen in a story, when there should be an inciting incident that changes the character's whole world, when there should be a point where they say, I don't want to do this, and turn back or try to turn back and can't. A point where they blatantly reject, and it's not just an attempt, like, I reject this. I don't want any part of this. And the hero's journey is one that's really good for epic fantasies where you're following a main character into a hero role from a normal person role, and then maybe showing a little bit of the aftermath of that. So while all the bones of every story are going to be the same, here's life before, here's the inciting incident, here's all these conflicts and these orders, here's the climax, and then the end of the book. Hero's journey just determines what percentage of the book you should have that happening in.
And sorry, and the hero's journey specifically is a reference to what?
Writing a story where there's a hero protagonist, basically, who's growing. So there's a hero's journey, a heroine's journey, which has a little more romance, I think, added in than and then, of course, you've got 3 act structures and 7 act structures. But in my case, this book is a classic good versus evil. The romance is just a side plot. It's not the main plot of the story. So she follows a hero's progression, basically.
Well, thank you. That is a nice and detailed answer. Yay. Let me find our next question. I kind of had one that I have to scroll back and look here for a second, but I kind of had one like, I was just sort of wondering myself, what did the dwarves do that got them stuck in Badland? Like, is that a plot spoiler? Does it even come into play? Because I was like, you land in the evil dimension, and there's a tribe of dwarves who are like, hey.
Yeah, so these are the dwarves with her in her world. Maverick, who's the leader of the Dwarven Company, he and his company swore their allegiance to her ancestor Valera during the war 500 years before. And time flows differently in the evil dimension. So there's only been 5 years that have passed in the evil dimension, and she has found her way back. So the ancestor found a way to send the dwarves forward in time, basically, before she died. And so that's not a big spoiler. It happens pretty early in the book. These dwarves randomly show up in Arla's world, and they can't be released from their vow until they actually kill the sorceress. So when she's sent to the evil dimension, her ancestor spirit sends them with her to finish their vow.
Like, that's it. All of the royals seem to get little dwarves that pop out of the woods and appear in their worlds. And now I want a band of merry dwarves too. Okay. In crafting your world, did you create any rules for the magical fantasy elements, or do you let that freely form as you write?
So the first draft, a lot of it was free form, but the second draft, which is where everything has to fit and everything has to make sense, I did have to establish rules for the magic in the world. There's not a whole lot of magic because the fairies aren't super involved, but they did give a amulet that allows the wearer to cast wishes in exchange for percentages of their life force. So it's sort of like a dual-sided. You can make a wish, but in exchange for that wish, you're going to give up part of how long you're going to live, type thing. So, yeah, but there are going to be clearly explained magic rules in the book, but it's a matter too of how attention detailed you are. Is unlike a young adult, book where it might be spelled out a little more plainly. You have to really catch where these fall in this book, being a new adult.
So it's funny that you say that, because I always think of one of the big differences between adults and like adult fantasy and young adult fantasy. And by the way, you guys, now is the time to put your name into the comments if you want to be entered onto the Wheel of Win for the drawing of this book. But what I was saying was, one of the things I find a big difference is actually that kind of gloss over factor, right? Where it's much more detailed. And then in young adult books, it's sort of like the magic happens because it does, you know? So it just kind of depends on what you do. Very, very funny, Newt. You know what I'm trying to say? You should stop that.
Your name.
Yeah, I said comment with your name, and so he just put your name. Speaking of fine details. So yes, and he says also here, the hero's journey is straight out of the book Hero of 1,000 Faces. Is that correct?
I actually don't know that book, so I'm gonna have to go look it up.
So you have heard of the hero's journey from somewhere else then?
Yeah, because when we did our editing courses in college, we talked about different plot structures. And I've had to plot beats, which is where you line up where it's supposed to happen and at what point in the book it's supposed to happen, so many times that it's just second nature. Right. But as far as remembering, don't tell my English professors, as far as remembering the origins of all these different plot structures, maybe not the best person.
So the world that you've written this book in, are the other books that you've written and novellas and whatnot, are they also in the same setting, or are they in their own different setting?
So far, the novellas are all based in our world or different dimensions based off of our world. Splitting Dusk is based off of our world with a cross into a parallel dimension where everything's basically a grayscale. And then Down Falls the Queen and Down Falls the King are following Japanese Tengu warrior inspired princess. And that happens also in the Tengu is like a crow human hybrid demon, type of demon, Oni demon.
Okay. I'm familiar with Oni.
So they have like the big crow wings, but they're human form. So they don't usually like shape shift into crows, but they have wings and they fly and stuff.
Nice. Okay, so I see you out there. I got Newt, Alicia, Erwina, and then everybody who is already on our Patreon and or YouTube, and is getting to be that time that we do the drawing. So let me pull up our wheel here. And you guys have a couple more seconds to be the last people to get your names in as I do this. Oh, Melissa. Okay, I see you. Here we go. I will get you on the list in just a second. There you go.
Love the list. Great list.
Oh, yeah. We have a lovely long list here, and it actually behooves you to be on the Patreon and or YouTube, because it gives you the extra entries, since from this large list, our wheel picks a random 50. And I have tested it and tested it and tested it to make sure that it is in fact random. So, because I got concerned about it at one point, but it is indeed. So here we go, you guys. Boom! This is for a copy of today's book, The Vow That Twisted Fate. And Alterum, congratulations. You are the winner. Yay! She will be glad to hear that. So I'll have to pop into the Discord where I know she is at. And if you guys want to join our Discord too, you can. The links for that are all in the low bar. Unless you're on Twitch, where I don't think Twitch shows things like that in a low bar. So, but on the Old Book of Faces and the YouTubes, the MeTubes, not the YouTubes. Congratulations, Alterum. That is awesome. And before we let you go, is there anything that you want to say, Katherine, to everybody this afternoon?
Thank you so much for hosting, and thank you everybody who joined. I'm so excited just to connect with other readers and other authors, if there's other authors.
Yes, no, and actually, this just reminded me too, because you said earlier, but I didn't have in my list of information from you. You said you have a YouTube channel. What is your YouTube channel? That way, everybody can bum rush your YouTube channel like a merry band of dwarves and be like, subscribe,
You
subscribe,
can search for Katherine D. Graham author, and hopefully it will pop up, or search for the Violet Twisted Fate book trailer, and it should be posted from my profile.
Katherine, I'm gonna try it right now. D. Graham author, and then see if I can find it. Oh yeah, it came up first. Second thing, actually, our show came up first, and probably because it's me looking. So I am going to go ahead and copy this little link. I'm going to put it into our comments for everybody. That way they can just click on it and go there. Hey. All right, you guys. It's a rating party. You know how this works, right? You rush over there, you click the button, rush over there, and give the subscribes. So speaking of subscribes, also, there are the Instagrams and Facebooks and all of the good things going on down there in the low bar as well. Please click those as well. So with all of that said, then, if you guys purchase one of Katherine's books, make sure to leave a review, because as you know, the indie authors and the reviews, yes, very, very handy for them. And I don't know what you have planned for the rest of your weekend, dear lady, but it is kind of rainy and dreary here now as autumn has set in. So what's the weather like in Tennessee?
It is gray and rainy today, and thinking about it, if anybody gets a copy of the paperback, connect with me on Instagram or something and send me a message, and I will mail you a book plate, signed book plate. You can just stick it in your paperback.
Oh, cool. That's kind of cool. Okay. Yes, and reviews are gold indeed. Yeah. So, all right. With all of that said, then we shall call an end to today's show. Remember to hit the like and subscribe, you guys, and we will see you again. Actually, we will see you again on Sunday, because we will be doing an autumn equinox observancy thing here on the channel. So that's a little out of the ordinary. Normally, we wouldn't see you again till Wednesday, but we'll see you on Sunday. So goodbye, everybody, and enjoy the rest of your weekend. I'll see you in a couple days.
Thank you so much.
Hello, friends. This is Gone for Hammerhands. Thank you for checking out Fairy Princess Lolly's channel. If you enjoyed this video, please hit the like and subscribe button. Use your troll hammer to ring that little bell icon to get notifications when she posts future videos. And if you'd like to support these magical creations, fly over to our Patreon and join the fairy family. Safe travels.